Hi everybody, welcome to Claymore Division. I'm Brad Harmer.
And I'm Omi Wibraham.
And we're taking a look at some more book reviews for you this week. I say week, it's been a bit of a delay since the last one, for which I entirely blame Rommel.
The hamster?
The hamster, yeah.
That'd be scary if you weren't blaming Rommel the hamster.
Yeah, well she's not turned up this week. Book I'd like to review for you first is The Boys of 67, Charlie Company's War in Vietnam by Andrew Weist.
He's not in there either.
No, he's not. She. It's a history of Charlie Company, which was the first platoon going into Vietnam. It was all voluntary.
Okay.
Yeah. It's really quite personal, deals with a lot of... It starts off with the author reflecting on how he got to know these people. He was a history lecturer, teaching students who only really knew about Vietnam theoretically, and he brought in some Vietnam vets to talk to them. And he runs a show reel of Vietnam War music, a bit of news, and the vet he's brought in has a complete breakdown in the lecture theatre because he just has no one knew what post-traumatic stress disorder was at the time.
No, because
this was probably the first time it was acknowledged. And so he goes off to try it because it's such a small space of time, really, and we've forgotten so much about it already. Mm. You know, the average man on the street knows more about World War II than they do about more recent conflicts.
Yeah, because we talk about it in school more, so yeah.
And its strongest point is that it is Band of Brothers in Vietnam. Its weakest point is that it is Band of Brothers in Vietnam. You kind of get a sense, if you read the book or seen the TV show, you kind of know what you're kind of in for. A few key characters or personalities stick with it, but it's mostly almost like a road movie, really. You're along with experiences. Some of the experiences are harrowing, some of them are very funny. There's a lot of camaraderie builds up, because it used to be, they were like the first group that all trained together and all went out together. Mm-hmm. After that, when you got conscripted, you were like split up into ones and twos. You're going to go and be the FNG over here, and you're going to be you two the FNGs in this squad. Whereas they were the company. They were Charlie Company.
Okay, yeah.
So it was much more
of a camaraderie,
a closer friendship between a lot of them, and the friendship and realities of war is really, really well presented. I don't normally do this, but I'm just going to read a paragraph from it because it just highlights the funny part along with the brutal as well.
Get comfortable.
Yeah.
Can I sit on the floor? My legs crossed.
Yeah, why not? While some men worked to build the camp, others had to man the berm and keep an eye out for the Viet Cong. As the day gave way to night, the men on the berm strained to see into the opposite tree line. Did that tree move? Had that lump on the ground always been there? Should I fire? In one bunker, Clarence Shires thought that it was his ears that were being fooled. He could have sworn he had just heard someone very faintly say, "Fuck you." He strained to listen harder, and there it was again, more distinct this time. "Fuck you." Shires turned to his bunker mates, saying, "Listen, someone is hollering at us." They listened but heard nothing. A few moments later, though, they all heard it. "Fuck you." The VC were out there. But where the hell were they? Were they going to attack? Drenched in sweat, with eyes straining into the blackness, the group listened all night as a VC taunted them. Only later did they discover that the sounds had emanated from a type of giant tokay gecko, which GIs across Vietnam simply came to know as the "fuck you" lizard. But the dangers were not all imaginary. A few hundred yards away, a Viet Cong sniper shot a man from another company dead off a berm, hitting him square between the eyes. And it's back, a really strong juxtaposition there. Yeah, I mean, it was all George Apes, and there was jokes, but it was horrifying at the same time.
I would like to point out that I just learned that there's a "fuck you" lizard.
Yeah, I looked it up as well.
Which is actually what I say to my lizard when it bites me.
Drag it back in. Boys of 67 Charlie Company in Vietnam is... If you've got any interest in Vietnam, it's absolutely worth picking up, because it would be like being into World War II and not having any knowledge of Band of Brothers. It's a very central text, I guess. Yeah. If you do want to know about Vietnam, this is an absolutely perfect one to get as well, because it's so personal, because it explains how everything connects.
Okay.
It's an ideal beginner's book, but if you're into it as well, you get... I mean, if you know strategic and your operational details, sometimes it's nice to get in on ground level and know what the troops were thinking as well, and that's where this book excels as well. So that's getting a 9 out of 10 from me.
Nice.
And that is The Boys of 67, Charlie Company's War in Vietnam by Andrew Weiss from Osprey Publishing, and available now.
Fuck you, Lizzie. Okay, so I'm going to have to change up the format a little bit. I'm going to review 2 books at once. They're both by the same author, Paul Cartledge. One of them is a book on the Spartans called The Spartans, and one on the Battle of Thermopylae, which is the Battle of Thermopylae, and sometimes subtitled as The Battle That Changed the World. But I think the copy I had didn't have that on the front. Okay. The reason I'm going to review them both together is that they are, I don't want to say interchangeable, but so well interwoven that they without being too similar to each other, they are almost companions to each other. One of them obviously focuses on the Spartans as a culture and as a military machine as well as people, and the other one focuses on the Battle of Thermopylae itself, the Battle of the Hot Gates, the battle from 300. And that's the way most people know it.
It would be, yeah.
The reason is that obviously the
We're
book
not
on...
from 300 Spartans, are we?
No.
Your nan might.
Yeah, my nan might. She liked that movie a bit. Anyway.
His nan has a thing for John Wayne.
She does. It's spooky.
Yeah.
So, the book on the Spartans themselves obviously has a lot more background on the Spartans and then talks about the Battle of Thermopylae because it is the biggest thing that they're known for in modern culture.
It's its own book, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he did.
Okay.
That one, obviously, if you were to pick that book up in its own, he uses so much language and so much... he's a university professor, so he obviously knows what he's talking about. If he were just to start describing the Battle of Thermopylae to you, he would need to say things like, and then the phalanx formed up with their hoplons, and you wouldn't know what that was. So he has to start describing things like that. Exactly. He has to start describing things like that at the beginning. So actually, one's a very in-depth look at the battle with some nice background on the Spartans, mostly from their military history.
Right.
And the other one is a look at everything to do with the Spartans with a bit on everything else.
Do you think he was writing a book on Spartans and got carried away with a book on part of Thermopylae and it ended up evolving into its own book?
Maybe so, because the way they were published was, I think that's right around, I think that the Spartans came out in 2002, first off, and then the Battle of Thermopylae came out in 2006. These are being republished strangely together. I'm wondering if, personally, I would pack them up as a gift set. But onto the actual quality of them is they are spectacular. His knowledge is obviously unsurmountable. Is that a word?
It is now.
Yes, unsurmountable. His knowledge of their culture, of their fighting tactics, of pretty much everything to do with them. Even I should imagine he knows a fair bit of Greek to be able to talk in some of the bits he does. Is just stunning. The language he uses. This is the one problem I kind of have with the book is that the bit in Bottom when he's reading War and Peace.
Yeah.
And he has to keep referring to a dictionary and he reads a page and has to put it down.
Yes.
Kind of how I felt at the beginning. Felt a little bit stupid.
So, yeah, but you're
stupid.
No, you're not a newbie to ancient history by any stretch.
It was.
You know quite a lot. I'm not.
Yeah.
Not to assume you could do a master's.
No, I certainly couldn't write this book.
But that's quite a lot. It does say a lot that you found yourself befuddled at times.
I would understand because actually none of the Greek mythology or none of the how do I put it? None of the terminology for the ancient world is lost on me. He describes everything that I didn't know. For instance, really quick difference between an aspis and a hoplon. The aspis is generally a term for a shield. Right. A hoplon is the shield that hoplites and Spartans.
Right.
Spartans were a type of hoplite warrior. Yes. That's the type they got. Hoplon became hoplite.
I didn't know that, but only from hanging out with you.
Yeah, well there you go. See, I knew that. The actual language he uses.
Things sometimes as well.
The actual language he uses is very, very. I don't know how to describe it, but this book feels like, well, both books feel like, a university paper the size of a novel. Wow. Therefore, the language is quite... It's not the Mr. Men books.
Right. Okay.
It's not hard to read. It's not like trying to read the Silmarillion.
You ever tried to read that? Have you?
I have actually,
okay,
and
fine.
it was terrifying. It's the English language, but I was finding every 10 pages there's a word I'm going, does that mean good?
So who would you recommend this book for?
If you are studying ancient Greece,
Okay.
or Spartans,
At an academic level, rather
at
than
an
hobbyist
academic level, you can pick it up and learn things from it. Like I said, the difference between an aspis and a hoplon. Pick that one up. The reason that,
No, I know that.
you know,
And that's how Claymore division works.
yeah, he does talk about these. He talks about like the different types of armour they use, and that's obviously the stuff I took away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Is when they went from the linothorax cotton to the cuirass of bronze, the muscular shirt that they're more classically depicted with. Well, no, they're not, because they're depicted shirtless now, aren't they? Yeah, it's a bit weird. But yeah, so at an academic level, this is great. I can't give them a separate score. So the set, I would give an 8.
Okay, cool.
They're really, really good, well worth reading, and you'll learn a lot. But buy a Thesaurus at the same time. Don't hop on.
My next book review is a piece of historical fiction for a change. We've covered Scarrow before, but normally we tend to focus on non-fiction, but we are both big fans of historical fiction, and I certainly believe I've learned more from historical fiction.
Definitely, I learned all of my Anglo-Saxon history from Bernard Cornwell.
Yeah, I learned all of mine from Patricia Cornwell, which explains a lot.
Carry on.
The next review is Traitor's Gate by Michael Redpath from the Head of Zeus Publishing. Yep.
Zeus Publishing.
Head of Zeus.
So it's about Rome, about Greeks. Ooh, I'm going to hate myself for that sentence.
Now. We'll leave that in just to drive him mental. It's historical fiction set during the rise of the Nazi Party, and it's a lot of like secret police and espionage driven. It feels very much like a Clive Cussler or an Ed McBain style, or Tom Clancy even style of political spy thriller, but obviously set as the Wehrmacht is coming to rise. The SS are leading pogroms against communists and Jews as often as they can, and it's about 3 or 4 very small people in the scheme of things, and their comings and goings. And it sounds like Cabaret now, doesn't it? And their comings
people and their comings and goings in the war.
You've not seen Cabaret, have you?
No, I was just singing a general Cabaret.
Oh, okay, no, I was referring. Never mind.
Do we start juggling?
Next week, I'll make Omer watch Cabaret.
History.
Yeah, Gonzo history. As a historical novel, I really enjoyed it. As a spy novel, absolutely brilliant. There was, in about the 3/4 mark, there was one of those plot twists, so I went, what? No! No! Oh!
It was a lizard all along.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it was just one of those, wow, did not see that coming at all moments. Its plot twists are very well crafted and very, very surprising. Where it doesn't succeed quite so well to me is it lacked that sense of historical immersion you get from that you crave even from a historical fiction novel. You want to feel like you're there, and although a lot of it is based around the SS, there was a lot which did feel like it could have been kind of set anywhere. This could have been a Cold War novel just as easily. There wasn't really much I learnt or picked up, although I enjoyed the ride, nonetheless. I think I wanted like more than I did, because it's certainly an interesting era to write a story in. It's because there's all kinds of stuff you can do on the global level down to, as it said, the way this book went, very, very small people interacting. And there's lots of bits trying to smuggle people over to Britain or back round or get them out of... Because the concentration camps exist at this point, although they're not really public knowledge, or they're not really known to the extent what happens in there.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on, but the lot that goes on seems to happen around the main character.
Oh, is it from the Tolkien... There's a fight up there on the bridge with the goblins, but I'm going to tell you about the water down here.
Yeah. Or something like using the Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
The whole point of that is there's a lot going on, but the dude is oblivious.
Yeah.
And that's the clever satirical way of it. This way was just like a lot going on, but
You missed it.
yeah, that's how it felt. It sounded like I didn't like it, which isn't true because I did. I enjoyed the ride very, very much. But I think if you're going into this looking for World War II historical fiction, you will probably be disappointed.
Okay.
If you go in looking for a fun spy, secret agent thriller with some World War II crime, then this is a great read.
So this is more walk into W.H. Smith's, see it in the top 50, pick it up, enjoy the book, as opposed to go hunting it out and finding an old dusty copy.
Yeah, if you see it, pick it up. But basically, if you see it, pick it up. Not worth hunting down. Certainly, if not from a historical perspective, if you're into spy thrillers or action books of the Clive Cussler, Ed McBain style, Tom Clancy again, who we lost recently, very sadly. If you're into that, then check out New Kid on the Block.
Oh,
but
cool.
If you're off historical fiction, not so much. But it would be interesting to see what he does next.
I was going to say, do you think he'll climb and become one of the bigger ones in this?
I would like to believe he would, because I think there's a lot of promise in here, and it would be interesting to see whether he goes down the spy route or the historical fiction.
Because obviously, I know this was obviously written before Tom Clancy passed, but as one of the prominent ones, there'll be a hole in that kind of side of the market now, and all the authors, all of the publishers are going to try to fill that. So
yeah, you've got to wonder. But it's. If you want a spy action thriller, pick up Traitor's Gate. If you're looking for the kind of World War II historical fiction you can learn history from, not so much, unfortunately. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. So if you see it, pick it up, but don't make it a Grail book or anything.
Cool. So our fourth and fifth book, because I did 2.
Yeah, because we cheated. It's been a while.
Yeah.
You've missed us, surely.
It's from one of our buddies at Osprey Publishing.
Hello.
This is the King Arthur book. It's the 4th book in their Myths and Legends series, which I think we reviewed the Thor one before. They've got some other, I think they've got the War of Horus and Set and a Dragon Slayers one, which if they're as good as this one. And this one is by Daniel Mersey, illustrated Alan Lathwell mostly. Obviously, though, of course, it's an Osprey book, so there's
amazing artwork.
Yeah, there's artwork everywhere. There are depictions of, artwork from the time.
Osprey or a coffee table book that fits on your shelf.
Yes, they are wonderful. Another great book. I don't know what I can say. Really interesting to me because I like the Arthurian. I don't know much about it, but I know bits. I'll dip in every now and again, and it kind of started with the Clive Owen King Arthur movie, where they look at a slightly different side. It's not just men in shiny plates swinging massive great swords at each other. They went with what historians call the Arthurian period, which is as Rome leaves Britain.
It's just for
and it's the wars with the Celts, the Saxons coming in.
But Dark Age.
Early Dark Age. It actually explores every type of Arthur myth.
Okay.
Love it. And actually dedicates almost like a small book, not even a chapter, like a small book within a book to each bit. And it starts with, say, the early Celtic and Welsh myths, and then goes through the Arthurian period, and the Roman period, and the shiny plate armour style ones, and all the way up to modern depictions in movies like Excalibur, Sam Neill in Camelot, in Merlin with the Camelot.
Which is such an amazing
it's great. It's so underrated. It explores pretty much everything to do with Arthur. When I first picked it up, because the picture on the front, which never judge a book by its cover, but that's why they sell, is a picture of him in shiny plate armour.
No, they don't. They sell because people check out reviews on Claymore Division over here.
Fuck you, lizard. So they, there's that picture. So I thought it was going to be a little bit disappointing, but actually the book does cover every single time scale of the Arthur myth, and the fact that it's in a Robin Hood, Beowulf kind of way, where it could be an amalgamation of many men. They talk about some of the legends of the people who it may have been, some of the Roman generals that some of his acts were attributed to, but then they talk about the classic myth that everybody knows of Lancelot going off with Guinevere, and they talk about... There's not a portion of the Arthurian myth that I know that they missed. There's a section on Merlin, there's a section on Excalibur, and a really nice bit about Excalibur coming from the water and the old pagan ritual of making sacrifices in the water if you were crossing water, and not forgetting that Britain obviously back then was a very very pagan place, and a very wet, boggy place.
Oh god, yeah. In many ways, still is.
Yeah, it still is, but it was even more so.
Oh yeah, they didn't have concrete. That's the only difference.
Well, yeah, that's the only difference. King Alfred the Great, for instance, I mean, it's much later or earlier, depending on what bit of history, hid in a swamp for months.
Yeah.
But you can imagine any swamp in Britain now that you could hide a king for months.
No, that's true.
Exactly, because that's the way it was. So you would have these long kind of jetties that you would have to cross to get to, and they used to put pagan shrines on each of the starts and the finishes of these jetties, and you would drop something into the water, and something like a weapon or armour would have been highly prized, and that was that whole thing about water being used to make, let's take a sword, like Excalibur, water being used to make it, and the idea was that when you were finished with it, you would give it back to the water, which is the Excalibur myth, the lady in the lake, and the giving the sword back in the water.
Yes.
A lot of paganism revolves around water and sacrifice, so there's that whole bit, and that was one of the most interesting books I read, for example. Most interesting bits I read, for example, was the summation of that. I'd never seen it so clearly before. It was really nice. Artwork all the way through is lovely. Didn't have the problem with Thor where I just depicted him wrongly. So yeah, absolutely great book.
Okay.
And
who would you recommend it for?
I would recommend it. Do you know what? Anybody who's into Arthur at all? Because it covers every side of his myth. If you like the shiny plate Excalibur style version of Arthur, there's plenty to read about that, but you'll also learn about the old Welsh one. If you like the Clive Owen movie, you'll love the bits about the Arthurian Arthur, and then you'll learn about the shiny plates guy or the Welsh guy. Or
if you like Sam Neill,
then watch Jurassic Park.
Score out of 10.
It gets Jurassic Park out of 10, which is an 8.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Nice. This is Claymore Division with all our book reviews. Hope you enjoy them. See you soon.
Fuck you, lizard.
Jurassic Park lizard out of 10.
Clever lizard.